Live. And we are live. So welcome everyone to the Q&A, and thank you very much for joining. I can see a lot of questions here already, and we have Taimur with us from Osome today. He's an accountant at Osome, and he's been kind enough to come on, take a lot of questions here. I know there's a lot of questions with Brexit, things like that. So any e-commerce questions or questions you have on your accounting or bookkeeping, this is the place for it. We have some already stored, ready to go, and we're going to go through those, and then we will jump into the chat with all your questions in the chat here. So please feel free to drop those as well. But a big welcome, Taimur, and thank you for making the time.
Thank you, Dan, for having me, and thank you everyone for joining. So a quick introduction. As Dan said, I'm one of the senior accountants here at Osome UK. We're an online accounting practice for e-commerce specialization. And my job is to make sure that e-commerce, bookkeeping, and accounting is automated as much as possible. So I'm more than happy to take any questions you have. And yeah, please feel free to ask anything that you would like to.
Someone asks where you are from, Taimur.
So my parents are from Pakistan, back home. I've been in the UK.
Awesome. All right, so let's start with some of the questions that did already come in. Taimur, the first one, and I think this is a good starting one, is really when someone begins e-commerce, selling on Amazon, etc., when should they consider bookkeeping and accounting? Can they start up and worry about that later, or do you recommend that from the get-go? When does that become critical, and why?
Understood. Now, again, this is one of the most frequently asked questions. I'll to talk about two things on this, and then obviously you can decide. So the first thing is, let's say if you don't take an accountant from get-go and you don't do bookkeeping from day one, and your year end is now due, 12 months later, and now you need to do your accounting. The accounting that you will go to, they will ask you to do the whole booking from day one. They will charge you a premium to do all of that in one go. And obviously the fees would be a lot more than what it would be if you do it from day-to-day basis. So in terms of cost plus the amount of work and accuracy of it, it's good to have it from day one because it's cheaper. There will be no premium, and you will have your books up to date on day-to-day basis. The second part is, if you're investing a lot of money in your e-commerce business, right, then you need to make sure that money is being spent well and you're getting the return that you desire. And to do that and to understand that, you need bookkeeping in place, and you need someone to tell you how you're doing. And like with our clients, we tell them on each month, or even sometimes on regular weekly basis, and some on quarterly basis, that this is how your business is doing based on all the transaction and bookkeeping we have done. So it's really down to you, but if you are willing to pay that extra fees for no good reason and not get the value that you could have gone throughout the whole time, then yes, you can wait. But if you want that, do it from day one. It helps you on many ends, basically.
Okay. And that also includes your kind of yearly catch-up fees. I experienced in the beginning is, you haven't done the bookkeeping, so now they've got to do this whole catch-up. And it's not only on the fees, I might add, it's the time. You have to go and find so many different transactions and reports, and because that all needs to be, recorded, so everything balances. So I agree from the beginning. And then, Taimur, I think a really important one is this next question, which is, what is unique with accounting when it comes to Amazon FBA and e-commerce? With those businesses specifically, what's unique with them? Because there's actually industries now where, for example, even with Osome, you see that they focus on e-commerce. There's some other accounting firms who focus specifically on this for certain reasons, because of the intricacies and differences there. What are those differences, and why should someone choose a specialized accountant over your traditional accountant?
I think that will help me explain what we exactly do and with that you probably will be able to find the difference in it. So if you're a normal business, you buy goods and then you have a stall or you have a shop, you sell them. It's a very straightforward business, right? Whatever you bought was your cost, what you were selling, again your sales, the difference, pay corporation tax on it. When it comes to e-commerce, there are so many elements involved in it. If you're getting your goods from a different country and you're getting it into the UK and then selling into UK, there's a whole system of import, VAT, customs, and all the Brexit changes get involved into it. So with e-commerce, everything is so simple and easy that you can get your products in from different countries via just simple apps like Alibaba and stuff. But the tax implication and accounting implication of this is far more difficult than any normal business, right? So that's one thing. So the transaction involved are very vast and complicated. Secondly, the understanding of the transaction is another part. Now, majority of the people, like if they're trading on Amazon, they receive bi-weekly money on their bank account, right? The payouts. Now, what I've seen, the people who came to us, majority of them were recording all of that as sales. And now that's completely incorrect. Your sales are the actual sales you've sold on Amazon, and minus all the fees, referrals, commissions, and that's what you get on your bank account. So you need to record what is on Amazon rather than what you receive in your bank account. Last example that I would use is cost of goods sold. You buy inventory, you expense it, and then you show a lot of loss in that month. Wrong. What you need to do is buy all the goods, put the asset, and on continuous basis, move it as and when you sell. Now, all of this means you need to pay a lot more attention on regular basis rather than traditional accounting where you can just do once every 6 months or every 3 months. This means that you need to do it on regular basis to understand your management reports and management accounting and how your business is doing, what are the budgets, and if you're falling under that or not. So I've given you like 3 examples on how it's different, but there are a lot more complications involved in e-commerce sort of thing. And that's where we are trying to come in and use that expertise to ease that process for you, basically.
Yeah, I think even with the reports that you download from Amazon, all of those are very unique and different to other businesses. And if you were to go to a traditional accountant, they would first of all not know where to even find that or how to kind of deduce what's important from those reports. So it's definitely very unique. And the next.
Sorry, one thing I'll just quickly add to that is the automation is very big element on the e-commerce uniqueness. So with every other business, you have to do things manually. With e-commerce, there's a lot of automations. As you mentioned, Amazon statements. A traditional accountant will just go through the statement and put that on your accounting software. Whereas you can use so many softwares like our own software that attach to your selling platform and downloads all the information and send it to your accounting platform. So there's a lot more automation in this industry compared to every other industry.
For sure. And the next question, Tamir, I think is important, and probably one of the ones everyone wants to hear more about is Brexit. Obviously, this has created a lot of changes. But before we talk about like the challenges specifically for sellers, what exact changes has Brexit brought about specifically in terms of e-commerce and logistics in Europe? How has it changed that? Before we talk about and it might be included, but before we talk about the challenges, what changes on like a broader level has it created? What has Brexit meant for logistics and e-commerce?
Definitely. I think e-commerce is probably one of the first industry that got really hit by Brexit. Before e-commerce, we were a part of a single market. We not only had UK, we had the whole of Europe, which is one of the biggest markets in the world. And before it was just simple and straightforward. Anyone from Europe can just simply go to your website, go to your Amazon, order your products, and that's it. You had nothing to worry about. Amazon would fulfill your products, do the FBA side of things, or you can even do it yourself, but with the ease of just sending the goods. Now there's a line in between, which is a big border. And logistically, you cannot just use the same process and just send your goods there. If you're sending your goods there, you're literally destroying your goods, because they will either be returned and you will pay extra money to get the goods back, or your customer will not be happy paying that extra money. So the biggest change is that now there's a big line in between, and whenever you cross that line, there are implications logistically, financially, and paper-wise. So those are the big changes with Brexit, basically.
And that big line being between the UK and the rest of the EU.
Rest of the EU. So UK is not a part of that single market. Inside the EU, they all still trade in a similar way, but UK is not part of that single market. So yes, there's a big line.
Okay. And then the follow-up to that is, what exact challenges has that brought about for sellers? What's new to me today that's going to be more difficult? What do I need to take heed of? What changes do I have to make now?
Now, the challenges, again, there's a lot of new challenges, and it was difficult, especially for the first 3 months, to understand those. But challenges for a normal e-commerce business doing their own, like Shopify or own website, is different, and for an Amazon, it's different. So I'll touch a bit on Amazon. Now, as I mentioned before, with Amazon, any order coming from Europe, Amazon will fulfill your products, right? You don't need to do anything. Now, you need to register in one of the countries in Europe. Let's say Germany, send a bulk of goods to Amazon warehouse there, and get your Amazon fulfillment for the rest of the Europe from that country. Now, the complications that involves is registering for VAT in Germany is not an easy task. It takes few months and it's expensive. Once that's done, then on regular basis, I think it's on monthly basis, you will have to submit VAT returns, which means that you need someone to do that, someone with the technical knowledge. And then you need to make sure your inventory is up to date, in not only in UK warehouse, but in Germany warehouse, so that all of your European fulfillments are carried out. So now you need to worry about 2 markets, not just one. You need to make sure the inventory level is okay, the finances are okay, and it's still profitable for you. Without FBA for normal e-commerce businesses, the difference is that there are 3 different options, and you need to decide which one to go for. Either you make your end consumer pay the import VAT and customs, you come up with a deal with one of the shipment companies to do that for you, or again, you register yourself personally and do everything, or find a fulfillment center in Europe and do it yourself.
Yeah, and to add to that, Tamir, I think one of the things that sellers should know as well with Europe, how it used to be, is you had 2 programs with Amazon specifically, Pan-European FBA and the European Fulfillment Network. So with Pan-European FBA, Amazon would disperse your inventory. So let's say your home was UK, they would send some to Spain and Germany and France, etc. And you had prime shipping in all of those. So you had FBA for all customers. And that did create VAT obligations in the other countries. However, it was easy. You could do it across UK, Europe, everywhere. And with European Fulfillment Network, you could do a very similar thing, but keep all the inventory in one warehouse, one country. So just in the UK, and then shipments could go out to Spain, Germany, France, etc. when those customers buy. But now, similar to how the UK is no longer part of the Europe, that line, Amazon UK is no longer a part of those programs. So that's another distinction to make. The rest of Europe, though, so your Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Portugal, those still are a part of Pan-European FBA and European Fulfillment Network. So that continues as normal in those areas, just without the UK. But I think really important points there. And in terms of that line, Tamir, UK and EU, if a seller were starting today, what's your opinion if they were starting in Europe? Should they start, because I know you said, you're going to have one market in the UK and one in Europe. But to start, perhaps before they do that, which one would you recommend they begin with and why?
I think that the best answer, the 2 things to consider before even considering which market it is: where you're locally based. So which is your local market? If you're based in UK, then UK is your local market, and things will be a lot more simpler and easier for you in terms of VAT, thresholds and all sort of stuff. You have about 85,000 pounds initially to even think about VAT. So if you're starting and you're in UK, then start there. But if you want to go all in and start big, then EU market is a very big market, and there are, I think the market place is huge there. So you should consider from get-go that you should touch Europe to get those sales. So it all depends where you are and what size you want to start with. And if it's a small size and you just want to kickstart, just focus on UK for the time being, and that get your hands dirty with the whole Brexit situation.
Okay. And then moving on to some of the other questions people sent in terms of a company, and it's sometimes difficult to get accountants to speak openly on this, understandably, but one of the thought to be benefits of running a company over being a sole proprietor or a sole trader is that you can write off expenses, and there's advantages in that space.
Yep.
Could you speak a bit about, for an Amazon seller, an e-commerce seller, what expenses should they be writing off? What can they write off? What can they not write off? And just any of your advice. You obviously do a lot of work for clients in the space. What's your general advice on that side of things when it comes to expenses and just being efficient?
Listen, now a single line answer is that any expense that is wholly and completely responsible for your business through your business is claimable, right? So to explain this, if imagine this business wasn't here, you wouldn't be spending this money. So now that the business is here, you're spending this money, it means you're spending it for the reason of the business, then that's claimable. But there are some restrictions to it for things like, client entertainment, use of home and things like that you cannot. So majority of 90% of the business expenses you can, some you cannot. So you just have to basically either consult someone and see what you do exactly, and they can help you with it. But things that you can do is, for example, with basic stuff, your cost, anything that you buy to sell, all of that cost is claimable. To get those costs into your warehouse or getting into your house or wherever you're storing them, or on FBA, any shipment cost, any telephone bills. I think as a limited company, you can have one telephone bill for the business use without paying any benefits on it. So a second phone incurs benefits. So yeah, so one phone, any mileage that you have done. So if you're using your personal car for business reasons, and you're doing Amazon arbitrage and you're going to different places and getting those goods, that mileage that you've done, you can claim all of that back. You can get, if your family member is helping you with this business of yours and they're putting some hours into it, they can come onto the payroll and you can pay them salary. And that salary is again deductible as expenses. You can have shareholders in your business. So rather than taking out all the money for yourself, you have yourself and let's say your partner, your wife, and you can give a part of the money to them as dividends as well, because they are part shareholder of this business. So there are quite a few things, but the logic is, as long as it's a business related transaction, you can claim that back without going into too much difficulties. If you're working from home and that's a necessity, then there's I think £6 a week that you can claim. So things like that, basically. You just need to understand what your business is exactly and what you can do with it.
Okay, and then you said something that I think is going to interest a lot of people here in terms of, let's say I get to a level where I'm hiring someone to help me. Do you recommend that person work as a contractor, like an independent contractor who earns sort of wages? Or do you recommend they come on if they're quite a critical part of the business, like ongoing, or would you recommend they come on as an employee with salary? And as a business owner, what are my obligations if I bring someone on in either of those ways?
Okay. Now there's a new rule that was published, I think recently, which restricts you from using contractors. So I think up until last year, a lot of companies were using contractors, and they were avoiding, paying taxes and national insurance. But that's now gone, and you have to have a very specific reason to hire contractors, which means that mainly you can only get employees for you. And the differentiation is that a contractor is someone who is not a part of your business. They're not there on your terms. They're there to do some work for you, and that's it. right? But an employee is someone who will work on the hours that you mentioned them. They will work on the gadgets that you provide them, like office and computers or whatever, and they will work on the terms that you tell them. And if there's a contractor that you've hired on these terms, then they're not a contractor officially; they're employees. So HMRC will tell you need to bring them as employees and start paying taxes on them. So just be careful. If it's a very one-off job and very small job, you can get a contractor. But if it's something that will be there for long term, you need to bring them on as employees. Now, when you bring them as employees, the cost is the salary, what you will pay them. So imagine you hire someone on £20,000. That £20,000 is your expense, plus the national insurance on top of it. So after there's a calculation on it. So after 8,600 something, you pay 13.8% on it. So 20,000 plus that national insurance is your cost for hiring someone. And the admin involved is that every month you need to transfer money from your bank account to their bank account, plus pay the taxes to HMRC. Again, if you have an accountant, then they do all of this, and you just transfer the money. They take care of everything else. But yeah, these are the costs that are involved with this. One thing I just want to quickly touch back on. You mentioned, what is the main difference between a limited company and sole trader expenses wise? So just to answer that, a sole trader, you're solely responsible for all the income that you're going to incur. You cannot take and whatever you have left out, you pay tax on it on the whole thing. Whereas a limited company, as I mentioned, anyone spending any time, like even if your partner, your brother, your family members, they can be a part of your business and they can take out money, and you personally will not incur that tax. You will divide that tax. So that's how the company helps, basically.
Perfect. And then you mentioned when you are paying an employee, that you obviously pay them their salary, and then you pay over taxes. And those taxes, is that PAYE, or can you go a little bit more into exactly that? What are those taxes? Obviously, the national insurance, but specifically, what would someone be paying there?
So when you hire someone, there are three taxes involved in it. PAYE, which starts from 20% up until £50,000, and then it increases to 40%, anything above. National insurance for employee themselves, which is 12%, and employer, that's 13.8%. So those are the three taxes. As an employer, so for example, if I'm hiring someone, I will pay their gross salary, and I'll pay their national insurance to HMRC. The employee will pay their PAYE and their national insurance as well. But what we do is, rather than paying them the monthly salary, we deduct all of these from their salary and only pay them the difference, and take that money out and pay it to HMRC.
Okay, perfect. And moving on from that one, and guys, we will jump into the chat very soon. So thank you for all of your questions there. It's awesome to see everyone here. And the next one here is really just on your experience in terms of you've worked with clients. What are the big mistakes you've seen? What are the biggest mistakes people make in terms of the numbers, the accounting, the bookkeeping, and how should the sellers watching today avoid those?
I think the few things that I mentioned was, recording your payouts as salaries, recording the goods that you buy as expenses, not recording the VAT properly on all the fees and commissions from different platforms. So those are the main things that can hurt you. So if you're recording sales as payout, and you're considering that your £85,000 threshold for VAT will be reached once you have reached through that, that's completely wrong. Your sales might be 10 times more, 2 times more, because your actual sales is what you sold on Amazon. So you've probably already reached 85K, but because you're using your payouts as sales, you don't even know that you've already reached it, and that can incur penalties and fines, right? And interest as well. And then the other thing is that from bookkeeping perspective, I've seen a lot of e-commerce clients only going to an accountant at the very last stage when they want to get something submitted. They pay a lot more as premium, the catch-up fees, as you mentioned. Plus, they're not using the bookkeeping element that they should, to budget, to control the cost, to manage their workflow. So if you're doing all of this, so there's a very simple concept: sales minus the base cost, you get gross profit. Now, gross profit percentage should always be same. It should never increase or decrease, because the amount of goods you buy should be relevant to what you're selling. And if it's not, if it changes, then you know there's something wrong. Now there are these percentages and these elements that you can use through bookkeeping, but majority of the e-commerce business owners, they don't use it. They just use what numbers they see. So not using the elements properly can, if you use them, you can avoid a lot of distress going forward, basically.
Yeah, something I will say also at this point is I'm quite analytical. Like I'll look quite in depth at things, and I obviously use professional accountants at this point, and I'm always surprised at how what I've calculated is sometimes wrong or a little bit off compared to what they end up with, and I can see why they're always right. So I highly recommend it. I think it's a difficult thing to get right, especially as you start to scale.
I'm just on that. I just remembered one thing. I was having this conversation with one of my clients, and I'm gonna give you some random figures. So he thought that he's buying a good for £15, and he's selling it for £20. And Amazon deducting all of that fees and stuff, he should be making at least £3 for that product, right, as a net profit. Again, when I mentioned to him that's wrong, actually he's probably going to make a loss on it because he has not considered things like his hours. So imagine he's putting 5 hours a day on this. He could have been earning hourly rate on that. He's not considering his mobile phone bills, travel bills, and accountancy fees, and all of the other admin costs. He's not considering any of those, and that can accumulate to another £2-3 per product each, which means that he was making a loss on that product. So if you don't have that bookkeeping or system in place, you just focus on the big numbers. You don't focus on the specifics, and when you don't know the specifics, you don't know if you're making any money or not.
100%. And Tamir, last question here, and then we are in the chat. And this one came in earlier this week. What is an EORI? An EORI number? And do I need both an EORI and a VAT number to import to Europe and have my products put into a European warehouse?
So EORI number is the electronic number that you get as an importer or an exporter. So if you are importing in UK or Europe, you need UK's import EORI number and UK EORI number. Without this number, you cannot transfer the goods because that's the reference number for you. If you're doing it through Amazon warehouse and Amazon FBA, yes, you need EORI number and VAT registration number in Europe to do that. Otherwise, Amazon will not allow you to continue trading. So yes, so EORI number, you need both VAT and EORI number for Europe.
Okay, and something I'll mention on this as well is now that we have this line between UK and Europe, you actually need an EORI in both. So you need one for Europe and one for UK if you sell in both. And of course, you'll need VAT in UK and VAT in a European country as well.
Agreed.
So that's also important to note. Okay, and we're jumping straight into the chat here. And thank you guys so much for joining. Revathy, FRF, IQ Tech, nice to see you here. And I'll take this first one, Tamir. It says, FRF asks, what's the difference between FBA fees and referral fees? FBA fees, also, or better known as FBA fulfillment fees, are specifically for Amazon picking, packing, and shipping out your product from the warehouse. So that's the fee they charge you for that. Obviously, they have to have warehouse staff do that, have a truck actually take it to the customer. So they charge you a per unit fee for doing those logistics. The referral fee is different. That is Amazon's commission, because you likely would not have made the sale if your item were not listed on Amazon. Amazon's built that brand and trust. They have the customers there. They have credit card details stored. So it's very easy for you to make that sale. And so they charge you a referral fee as well per unit you sell. And that's usually 15%, but it does depend on your product's category. So that's how those are different. FBA fees for the logistics, referral fees for their commission for you selling on their platform. And FRF says, should I pay both? Yes, you will have to pay both if you do FBA. If you do FBM, you won't have to pay the fulfillment fee, but you'll still pay the referral fee. And IQ Tech asks, what is the solution for the new restock storage type of limit? Do you think that Amazon may change this policy because so many sellers are hit by this? IQ, they actually changed this, I believe, 2 days ago. Check on your account. I do know it's changed for a lot of sellers. So as many of you know, there was a 200 unit limit for new ASINs. You could not send more than that number of units into the warehouse. But so far as I know, they've raised that limit for a lot of sellers, some up to 3,000. So it seems like they are removing those limits. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But if you do have a limit, I recommend using a 3PL, a third-party logistics warehouse. So you can send your inventory to them in the same country as your Amazon market, and they just resupply to Amazon. And let's see. Okay, this one is for you, Tamir. Please ignore it. It's a bit off topic, but if a non-US resident does JOD DFY, so that's just one dime program. So Anton, I don't run that. I'm not involved enough with that to speak on the specifics of that exactly. But would that create an ETBIS for US tax purposes? And this is a really good question. And Tamir, if I can give you a little more insight so it's a bit clearer. So a non-US resident has a US company create their Amazon store for them in the US and run that store for them. The inventory still comes from China and goes into the US. But does this create an ETBIS? Does that create ETBIS for that non-US resident using a US company to build that US store for them?
I'm not 100% sure on this, and I'll definitely will have a bit more reading on it. But from general understanding is that as long as you're not taking the money out of the company for personal use, then you will not be. Your company will be subject to sales tax at certain threshold. But you personally will not be if you're not taking any money out personally. When you start taking the money out, you need to see what double tax treaty is between the country you're in plus the US tax. And again, I'm not personally familiar with this specific situation, but those are the overview of how the US tax and the tax system in general works. So maybe if I can get more detail on this, I'll probably get back to you later on.
Okay. And yeah, Anton, if I've looked into this a little bit, Tamir, and it's so there's differing opinions on it, but basically you are ETBIS, you are engaged in trade or business in the US if you have a physical office address there or a dependent agent within the US working for you. So the question here, Anton, is the US company building your store for you your dependent agent? That's the question.
I can't. They are probably classed as a contractor rather than the agent on spot at that time. And also it depends how you fill the form up when you're registering your company. Would you be filling out that they will be your agent, or will you be saying that you're an overseas business owner without any presence? So there are like if a US client comes to us in the UK and asks us to do a registration of company in the UK, in the form we sell out that we are the agent of them, and that it starts the whole implication of it. But sometimes we don't, we just help them incorporate the company, and that's it. So it also depends on.
Yeah. Another point here, Anton, is that when they describe a dependent versus an independent agent, remember, dependent agent's the one which would make you ETBIS. A dependent agent mainly does work for you exclusively. An independent agent does work for various clients, and you are just one of them. So in this case, we know they do the same thing for various clients, not just you. Now, I'm not an accountant or what have you, but in this case, from what I've seen, my research is that that wouldn't be ETBIS just because of that extra piece. But again, I'm not an accountant disclaimer, please check with yours. You'll have to, because that's a very unique situation. But I wouldn't see them as your dependent agent. And Agnes asks, off topic, just a little frustrated. We've agreed the price and work on the contract stage, but suddenly my supplier disappears and ignores my messages. So Agnes, that's really odd. Have you paid them yet, would be my question. But if you've done all the work and that, it's very unlikely they would just disappear, because that's obviously their time and that's what they're working toward. But that's an unusual situation for sure. And Mufaza asks, as a Pakistani, can I work on Amazon, or can I sell on Amazon? Tamur, I don't know if you know the answer to this one.
I think you can, because we have a lot of clients who are not UK resident and they're selling on Amazon UK markets. One of the caveats is that Amazon asks you for a local bank account, I believe, but there are some alternatives like Starling and Cash Points and Cash Plus that you can get into. So I think there are some hurdles, but if you can come across that, then yes, you can start trading on UK markets.
Awesome. And FRF asks, if I print my logo on my product before I'm actually brand registered, before registration, what are the problems that I will face? Go for it, Tamur.
Yes, sorry. There is no, I think, legal implications to it. The only thing is that if someone registered it before you and steals that, then you can't use it anymore. So as long as it's not registered with anyone, you're okay. As long as someone registered it, you or someone else, and that's it. So if you registered, you can use it. If someone else did, then you can't use it anymore. I think that's what my understanding is.
100%. FRF, just be very careful that this is not a similar mark to someone else already registered mark, because it can create, I've had so many problems with this exact thing. And companies are very aggressive on protecting their IP, even if it's similar. So the key here is you don't have to be registered to have it on the product, as Tamur said, but make sure it's not like anything already out there on the market. And then you can move towards registration on that. Oh, yes, exactly. Ayan, thank you. Ayan was just answering the referral fee question. Okay. Balaji asks, regarding this, is it mandatory to get VAT and EORI numbers before starting in the UK marketplace? Tamur.
Yes, if you are from outside the UK and you're bringing the products in from outside the UK into UK, then yes, you have to register from day one to get the goods into UK. And to understand this, just remember that the border is there, and anytime you cross the border, you need to pay import VAT, and for that you need to be registered for that.
And Olga just gives you a warm welcome here, Tamur. Thank you, Olga. Good to see you here. And Robert asks, how long does it take for the average Joe working 9 to 5 to be able to grasp FBA in full? Robert, it just really, it's like any other business. It takes time, and the more you do it, the more confident you'll get on it. But there will be mistakes along the way. You'll learn from those and just get better and better at it. But you should be able to work out the good basic understanding of all of it even within a week. But obviously your knowledge will grow with time. And Claudia asks, hi, as you're based in the UK, does it mean you can only assist if my limited company is in the UK? I live in Ireland, but want to sell globally. So I'd like to know how to go about it. Thank you. So Tamir, I think this is primarily for Osome, and I think you could talk more about that, where you specialize, although you may be based in the UK.
Yeah, no, we are based in UK, and our expertise and understanding is all about UK market itself. But as I said, I almost spent a month and a half or 2 months to understand Brexit implication in EU. And when I did this, obviously the whole EU, Ireland, and everything was covered. And we have few clients who obviously deal with the Ireland tax implications back and forth. So to answer your questions, yes, we can help you with it definitely. If it's not me personally, we have in-house experts who deal with that side of the country and that side of the part of the world as well. We have partnerships in Europe specifically, so people in Germany, we have team there who's doing the VAT registrations and all that stuff for us. Our bases are like in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Moscow. So we are quite not global, but in many different countries. And if you want to come on board and discuss about any of those countries, we can definitely help you with this. We are now also stepping into US as well. So soon we will have our own practice in US to help you with the US side. So to answer your question, yes, just let me know what you need exactly, and I can guide and help you with that.
Perfect. And Robert says, I find Alibaba shipping too expensive. So Robert, remember that Alibaba itself, it doesn't specialize in shipping. That's going to be where you actually source your products from. It's going to list suppliers from all over the world, whether in China, Vietnam, even as US manufacturers on there. But shipping is something you will book or can book separately. So some people actually do shipping with their suppliers. They use their supplier's partnered freight forwarder, which is totally fine. But others use different freight forwarders entirely, and they just connect that with their manufacturer. They pick up the goods and take it to the warehouse. So you can use a site like freightos.com, and that'll give you a whole lot of different quotes. However, shipping is very expensive right now, the most expensive it's ever been. So that's probably why you're seeing that as well. And that will likely come down in the coming months because it's at all-time high. Also, I wouldn't recommend air shipping, pretty much anything. Do ocean freight. It's going to be way more cost effective. And FRF asks again on the private label. Jerry says, my personal accountant has no clue, lol. I'm getting an e-commerce one now for my business. So there you go, Tamir. Those are the little nuances.
Feel free to have a chat with me, book a free consultation, and I'll tell you exactly how easy and fun it would be once you come on board.
Awesome. And Robert asks, are you all experienced FBA people here or new? So myself and Tamir have been doing this for a long time, but I think that's more for the chat. So everyone let Robert know where you're at with how long have you been doing this. And awesome, Robert, good to have you with us. Nick asks, can you do a pure cash accounting, including inventory, with a US LLC, at least while you're growing? So Tamir, if you want to touch more on that.
Yeah, I was just trying to read a little bit on it before I answer. Mainly, it's all accrual basis, which means that you record expenses and sales on the basis of invoices rather than the cash itself. In UK, you can do cash basis for only VAT purposes, but not for accounting purposes. So there's limit to it. I was just trying to see if US have same sort of limits or not, but as of now, I don't know. But what I can say is that if they have GAAP as well, which is the generally accepted accounting principles, and for that, I think they also use accrual basis, not cash basis. So some elements of it can be used for cash, like sales tax and VAT, but your accounting is done on accrual basis. Now, again, my question to you in return would be, why do you need cash accounting specifically? And normally people would answer to manage, and control the cash flow. For that, you get, even in accrual basis, you get cash flow forecasting and cash flow statements. So keep compliant and do accrual basis, but also ask your accountant to get you cash flow statements and forecasting. That will help you to understand exactly what cash you have at the moment and what cash you will have in the next 6 months, and that will resolve both sides of it.
And Olga asks, I would like you to advise, please. I'm being charged VAT by Amazon in the US, but in the UK, I don't meet the threshold, the £85,000 VAT threshold. Is there any way to avoid this? So, Tamir, I'll add a little and then please clarify for me. But Olga, the US specifically should not be charging VAT on sales, because in the US they have sales tax, which is very different. It's only Europe, but most European countries charge VAT, which is kind of the similar thing to sales tax. These are consumption taxes. So that should be the case there. So Olga, if you could respond again, how do you mean? Do you mean you are paying VAT on turnover, or are you paying VAT on is Amazon charging VAT on your US sales, which is highly unlikely? But Tamir, if you want to add, if you've seen something like this.
Yeah, I would also like to ask you a question. Is your company, the one that you're trading from, is it a UK limited company or a LLC company? And from that, are you selling into US and getting VAT charged? So if that's the case, then if you're for a UK company and selling into US, as Dan said, you should not be paying any VAT because there's no VAT system in US. If you're a US company who's selling into UK and then you're being charged VAT by Amazon, then that's a different story, and that might be a case because you're a US company, you're an outside company from UK, and you're selling into UK public, and that may incur import VAT and other VATs as well. So it basically depends on actually what are you doing. So for me to answer that in more detail.
100%. So if you're selling into the UK from outside, it's immediate VAT registration now. In fact, if you are selling to UK customers from UK Amazon inventory, Amazon is collecting the VAT on your behalf by default. So if you're selling into the UK, yes, there's going to be VAT even before threshold. You do not get a threshold. The only time you're going to get that threshold is if you are a UK registered company within the UK. And other countries may have their thresholds if your company's based in those ones. But Olga, overall, US sales, sales tax, UK sales, or Europe sales, VAT. Robert says, looks like this chat is for advanced people. Take care. Well, I hope the other videos help you. Start with those, and then this should become relevant. And Olga asks, what is the certificate of incorporation? Can I get this easily from the UK tax office? And thank you, Tamir.
So in UK, there are two authorities that ask you to do things when you do a business in UK, Companies House and HMRC. The certificate of incorporation is issued to you by Companies House, and that is basically a certificate of your company's existence. And it's a very easy thing to get as long as there's a name available and you have all the details and you have a UK address. You can get that easily, and we can help you with that. Yeah, so it's I think incorporating a company in UK is one of the easiest thing you can do.
It's very easy. If you're in the UK, you can do it for like £12 as well. By the way, just on that, it's incorporating. You can incorporate in almost any country. You don't have to be resident or citizen there. The challenge is generally opening the bank account. So just keep that in mind. Wherever you ever set up, that's usually the hardest part. So you want to look at that. How do I open the bank account? What are the needs there? And that should be included in your incorporation, in your company setup decision. Olga also asks, Tamir, can you provide the details for Osome and how you can be contacted? And I will drop those as a comment and in the description so you guys see exactly. But if you want to just give any advice on that, Tamir.
Sure. I think there's a link that we have created for Dan specifically, so please use that link to join. And you will be contacted with one of our sales team. Just ask them to either get in touch with me or any of the accountants from Osome, and they will book the next available consultation. And normally that's within 24 hours. So if you call today, you'll probably get a call with me or one of the accountants by tomorrow.
Excellent. Really good question. Claudia asks, are you able to assist with planning or forecasting of inventory as well?
So that comes under management accounting. What we can do is we can guide you on how that is done. So if you have inventory and you want to sell, we can. I've done this for a few of my other clients as an ad hoc or bespoke service where we sat down on a Zoom call, went through the Excel sheet and exactly looked at the percentages, and we went through the whole forecasting. So you can add that as an extra service, and we can definitely help you understand how that works. Once we have created that Excel sheet, you can always use that for your month-to-month, and I'll exactly explain you how it works. So the answer is that yes, we can. Plus, we will create a system for you that you can use for a very long time. So it wouldn't be that you pay for a service and that's it. You will get the value of it for a very long time.
Awesome. And Minutes is asking questions as an accountant about finding clients in this industry. So if you had any just any insight for him on being a successful accountant in this industry or any industry, Taimur.
I think what you have to understand is how this whole industry works and how the automations are put in place. So there are very big names like A2X, Linkmabook, Osome is now one of them. They are using a lot of different aspects of this whole chain. So for example, A2X, all that does is put all the information from Amazon into your accounting software. So it connects one part of the chain, where with Osome, we are managing that whole chain. So you just need to find out which part of that chain you want to be as a profession, and then target that audience basically. So and that's what we did. We realized that there are so many tools out there to help e-commerce business owners, but there's no one to tell them how to connect all of that and actually work on that. And that's where we jumped in, and it's basically finding that gap there is and appealing to the end consumers.
Okay, and on that, Jerry asks, do you recommend A2X, or is QuickBooks or Xero enough, or do you need that A2X extra step? Obviously, you handle the full thing, but for someone, I mean, what's your opinion on that? Do you need A2X?
Again, they're all completely different things. So a QuickBook and a Xero are the accounting softwares. A2X is the third party, as I mentioned. It depends on the level of it, because A2X can sometimes be a bit more expensive as well, because they're, I think, one of the highest subscriptions that you pay in this whole chain. So rather than that, I would simply say, rather than paying them, get yourself an accountant who probably already have a partnership with them and get that in a very cheaper, or even like for us, we have an in-house app that does the same thing that A2X or Linkmabook does, and we connect our dots rather than using anyone else. So you will need an accountant regardless to do your books, right? So why not get someone who is a part of this industry that will get all of that connected for you, rather than you paying separately for each one of them. Now, I had accountants who come in who already had Linkmabook and A2X subscriptions. And immediately, as soon as they came, I said, stop paying that and we'll take those costs on board. So, you reduce that cost for them.
Okay. And then Craigslist asks, I have formed a UK company on my own from Pakistan. Can I register for a UK seller account on the Pakistani credentials? Craig's here, you're just going to need to look at the accepted list. If Pakistan is on the Amazon accepted list, which I think it is for the UK, then yes, you should be able to use those credentials. However, if you formed a UK company, it's best to have a UK address. Get a registered UK address, get a UK bank account if you can, and use as many details based there as possible. However, you might need to, as the beneficial owner or the primary contact person, you may need to use your details, of course. So that's where it can the lines can get blurred, and each country is a little bit different on what they will accept. But yes, off the top of my head, I would say yes, it should work. But try get as many UK details as possible. Astakona says, hi, I'm from Malaysia and want to start selling my product in the UK. Should I open my seller account or Amazon business account? And can you tell me the pros and cons of both of them? So, Astakona, what I would say is open I'm not sure exactly if you're meaning should you start an individual account or a professional account. But overall, I always lean towards a professional seller account. That's the best one to, in my opinion, start with. Yes, you'll pay that little monthly fee, but it gets you access to all the features you're going to need. And secondarily, if you are from Malaysia and you're looking to start signing up in the US or UK, using a company or having a company and signing up with that, it's going to be much easier. And to do that, you need a pro account. So professional seller account is what I would recommend there. And let's see here. Product and niche analysis. I'm going to come back to some of these guys. I'm going to look really for accounting, bookkeeping for a second. So KS asks, can we use you personally as an accountant if we use Osome, Tamur? How to book a consultation and what is the discount at Dan? So Tamur, if you want to speak more on that.
Yeah. So majority of the consultations are taken by me, especially if it's e-commerce related. Now we are an accounting firm and we have clients from many different industries. So if someone is coming from e-commerce and they have a very specific e-commerce understanding, that I normally take the consultation on, and majority of my day is literally helping others out. But I have a team who have trained for almost a year now on e-commerce. So if it's very something basic and simple, they will get back to you. If it's not and they're not able to, then they book the next consultation in. Now, if you come on board, you get unlimited chat. So you can ask as many questions as you want on the chat and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. But if you want to have a face-to-face conversation, I think there is a limit on basic understanding, but you can always book in a consultation and we can go through things. But you get unlimited chat system where you can ask anything and you get a response within 24 hours.
Excellent. And Sharon asks, is DDP the best option for receiving products from China? Yes, Sharon, I would say definitely. That's delivered duty paid, DDP. That's just going to speed a lot up. When it goes through customs, you're not having to have a freight broker, a customs broker actually do all that for you and booking them separately. DDP gets it all the way to the destination. So yes.
So I think the case also asked, if there's any discount for any of these or any people who have joined us today. So there's £100 off for your first bill for anyone from Dan's reference, basically.
Yes, and I'll drop those below for you. There is actually also I believe it's $150 off if you use the US option. It just does not include sales tax. So that's, but I will drop more info on that below for you guys straight after this. But there were two options there, UK and US sellers. And Lucas says, I want to send my inventory from China to the UK, but I'm still waiting for VAT and EORI numbers. Do I need those numbers for shipping, or can I provide them on customs or at the customs stage? So can he ship? Tamur, what do you think?
I'll probably have to come back to you on this, but my understanding is that when your Chinese supplier is filling out the custom forms, in that form, they need to put the EORI number and VAT number in it. And then they post it. Without this, I think it gets rejected or it gets held up in customs. Now, with your situation, I believe that even if it's held up in customs, then you can probably provide that custom number then. So that's what I'm saying. Let me look into this. It might be the case that even if your supplier sends the goods to UK, you can provide those details at customs and get those released. But at the moment, as of now, I know that you need to fill those up before even sending it off.
Okay, perfect. Because he does say shipping time's 30 days. So he's going to have those numbers before it gets to customs.
Got it. So that
But
might work. That might work for him. Yeah.
okay. But perhaps, Tamur, after this, you could maybe drop a comment below for Lucas. I'll also drop those links below.
Yeah.
Just
I'll definitely do that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And Anton says, thanks so much, Dan and Tamur, for addressing my previous query on the Just One Dime Done For You and ETBIS. As I fully appreciate that this matter might not be so straightforward to answer, yeah, it is really complex, Anton, when you look into it, but I wouldn't see them as a dependent agent. What is the best practice for tracking Amazon fees for sales per unit?
Sorry, then just on Anton. Anton, similar to Lucas, I will reply to your query as well, hopefully within next, by tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So before the weekend, I'll answer to that question as well.
Awesome. And then Yolanta asks, what's the best practice for tracking Amazon fees for sales per unit?
Amazon provides you a lot of reports, which you can use to manually understand what those are. I believe, so then I'm not familiar with the back end of the Amazon, but I know that when I see statements, I can see what the fees are. But on accounting side, for our clients, we have our app attached to Amazon, and we download the information directly to the accounting software, which tells us exactly how much it is. But I don't know if there's another way to do it on your end.
Yeah, very easy. So Yolanta, number one, like in your manage inventory, you're always going to be able to see what your FBA fees are for that item, FBA fees and referral fees. And then you are also able to go to in Seller Central, go reports and payments, and it will tell you exactly that last disbursement you got, what breakdown of that is Amazon fees. It will actually list it there for you. Or you can go into business reports and get an even more in-depth breakdown of that on a month-to-month basis. But it will list all the fees for you. Per unit, best is to do it in manage inventory. You will see, how many, you will see the exact fee then, and then you can work out, okay, how many sales for the month of that item, and then you will know the exact amount of fees for that unit. Agnes says, I didn't pay the supplier yet, luckily. We just agreed on the price and decided to move forward to the contract stage. Then they disappeared. Agnes, that's really odd because there's no point in them doing that. So I do think you never know. It might, how long have they not been replying would be my question. But I would expect them to come back to you because that's a lot of work on product design to not create an order. But in the meantime, I would look for alternative suppliers. Millie, what would you say is the main difference in a regular accountant versus an e-commerce accountant? Timur.
Yes, I think we did cover this in a great detail, but just to simplify, and a simple answer is that e-commerce entails a lot of minor specific details that can be missed by someone who does not understand this industry in detail. Things like, Amazon fees, FBA fees, and getting import VAT from other countries. What are the new rules? The VAT deferral scheme, where you don't have to pay any import VAT on your goods coming in, and you can simply pay it on your next VAT quarter, or save your cash flow. Recording the inventory properly and getting the whole automation of things. So your Amazon speaks to your accounting software directly rather than human intervention. And a traditional accountant might probably be a bit more expensive because for him or them, they will be a lot more manual work with downloading reports and stuff. Your VAT threshold. So the reason I'm throwing all of this random stuff to you is just to show you that there are some stuff that you only know if you have got into it or read about it. Now, I joined Osome last year in March. Before this, I was a traditional accountant looking after high profiles and solicitors and stuff like that. And I had no clue about e-commerce at all. And when I was given my first e-commerce client, I struggled because I did not know how to record this transaction or that transaction. But then throughout this, obviously you learn. And now I'm one of the experts in this space in my company. So yes, there's a big difference, and you need to find someone who knows what it is to help you with it.
Excellent. And FRF, I wrote the shipping website for you in the chat as well. Yolanta asks, reimbursements from Amazon. Is it better to do this manually or to hire a company like Seller Loca or Smith or similar? So on this, what Yolanta is referring to is sometimes Amazon actually makes mistakes, Tamir, as you may have seen or heard of, but they will actually owe the seller a lot of money. It might be for losing inventory, for doing refunds or things incorrectly or returns incorrectly, but usually losing inventory. And you can actually request reimbursement from them. And the odd thing here is they do not come up and say, hey, we have a reimbursement for you. They actually put an expiry date on it. And if you don't claim it within a certain amount of time, you do not get your reimbursement. So there are actually full services built on this to help you request these reimbursements. Yolanta, I would say a service is probably best on this because they're fully automated. And very often you can find a tool, for example, Salarize is one of them. Within their tool suite, this is one function, and they can automatically determine which reimbursements for what you are owed. So that's what I would recommend there. But check that regularly. Otherwise, they just there is a date on those. And Jalal asks, we currently stopped on all European marketplaces. I think a lot of sellers have opted to do that in this period, by the way. Doing only UK at the moment. We're wanting to start it again, but we're looking for an accounting company or service that we can use. Can you please recommend any? So, Samir, go ahead.
I don't know if I can recommend myself, but please feel free to get in touch. We are an expert in this in marketplace, and we are obviously, as I mentioned, I've done months and months of research and understanding and put processes in place to help our clients do that. So if you come on board, you will see hopefully a seamless process of registering into EU, getting your EU VATs on time, and getting all of that information back to you as a business in UK. And obviously you're getting all those discounts from Dan's reference as well. So please feel free to get in touch.
Awesome. And FRF says, I sell from Turkey, but into the UK. Where should I pay VAT?
In UK. So on the sales in the UK, you will pay tax on UK.
Yes. Always remember VAT is at the point of sale is where that's charged. So where that sale happens is where that's going to be charged, and the same with sales tax in the US. But there are some complexities to that one with like where inventory is stored or transported through. This is why you need an accountant. And then moving on here, Olga says, I'm a UK-based company selling in the US only. So this referred to when Olga said she's being charged VAT on US sales.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
Again, I have a client exactly in your situation, Olga. So again, this is where a traditional accountant will not understand the situation, and they might, but I would have struggled if I did not know this and I personally experienced this. Now you're a UK-based business. Technically, you should be a limited company, but you're an LLC, which means that you are a US company who is registered in UK to do taxes, right? So this is reality. I have clients. I have 3 clients who do this. So now I understand your situation. You should be paying VAT on your UK sales only, not on your US sales, because you're a UK registered business, being an LLC. So you should be paying your VAT on UK only. And if you're paying VAT on US, then there's probably something wrong with your settings in Amazon, which needs to be looked at and changed, because you should not be paying any VAT in US. There's no VAT there. But for your UK sales, you will be paying VAT because you're a LLC company registered in UK.
And Tamu, where does that VAT go? Is that incorrectly being tracked as UK sales, maybe?
Yes, no. So those are still being calculated as sales. But what Amazon does is Amazon keeps that money, and they want to pay HMRC. Probably sometime later, you will get a message from them saying that we incorrected, and this is money that you need to recover from us. I had a client who had this situation. She wasn't in US, but she was in UK, but wrongly charged VAT. And Amazon kept on deducting that money, and it took her almost 3 to 4 months to get that money back from Amazon after probably 100 calls. So there is a bit of a situation there as well. But again, Olga, it would be a good idea to have that call with you to understand a lot more in detail to where this is going and what we can do for this.
Excellent. And Awesome asks me to add the affiliate link. I will add the link below here. Guys, that does support the channel, but it also gets you a cool discount. So if you are struggling with this, you want an accountant or a consultation, definitely use that. And thank you, Tamur and Awesome, for that discount as well. Cecilia, awesome to see you here as well. Glad you could join. Linda, hi Dan and Tamur, thank you for doing this. Could you tell me how long does it take to have VAT registration done in the UK? I've been waiting for 3 weeks now. Is that normal?
So if you're a UK registered business, if you're an LTD company, then it takes about anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. But I have had clients who really literally got it in 5 days. So it's very random, but the official deadline is 3 to 6 weeks. If you're a foreign company who's registering VAT in UK, it can take up to anywhere up until 3 months, because there's a huge backlog. I registered one of the companies from Germany into UK. The client used to chase me every day, and we called the HMRC every day. It took us 3 months to get the registration, and whenever we called, the only thing they said is there's a huge backlog because of Brexit. So depending on where you are, the time is different, and your luck as well, basically.
Okay. And Claudia asks, as I live in Ireland, I have to pay taxes in Ireland. If I use your services, Osome services, do I have to hire an accountant in Ireland as well to ensure my taxes are compliant? Thank you.
Yes, so we personally do not submit Ireland taxes at the moment, but we have partners in place. So what you will get in this space is you will only have me or one of the accountants at Awesome to deal with. How we do at the back end, obviously, we keep it very transparent that, it's not us, it's someone else, it's one of our partners to do it. But you will not have to worry about that. Anything that goes wrong, any question that you have, you will only have this one person who will deal with everything. And at the back end, they will do everything else, your Ireland taxes and all the submissions.
Okay, awesome. Sharon asks, is it true that you have to order 1,000 units in order to use sea freight or ocean freight? That's what my supplier said. My product is small and weighs 1 kilo. So no, Sharon, that's definitely not the case. You could send 50 units by sea. It's really based on volume, and they fill up those containers with whatever it is. So definitely not. However, each supplier has something called a minimum order quantity, MOQ, and theirs may be 1,000 units, or maybe for them to ship or use their partnered forwarder, they're giving you that MOQ that, okay, we'll do that, but you have to order a minimum of 1,000 for it to make sense for us. So that sounds more like an MOQ. That's not an ocean freight limitation, so far as I know. I've definitely shipped less than that by sea. And Lucas says, for DDP, which is delivered duty paid, is it possible for the supplier from China to pay the VAT? I think this is a really good question, Timur. My supplier is saying it's not a problem, but he cannot provide any proof such as C88 documents. But I've heard of this where a VAT number is required. The seller is not VAT registered, and the supplier will use their VAT number. Can you speak to that? Or what are your thoughts? And you're muted.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
No
So
problem.
yes, you can definitely get that done. And majority of the small business owners definitely do them rather than going through the hassle of registering themselves and all of that. They ask the Chinese suppliers to do that. So for them, the importer of goods will be the suppliers from China, not you. So everything will be released to you, and you won't have to pay anything extra on top. The form that they're mentioning is the form that helps you claim that import VAT back. But because you're not the importer of goods and you're not the one paying for it, your supplier is, that what they're saying is that we won't be able to provide you this document, so you won't be able to claim anything back if you pay, if you want us to do it. So that is not financially good, because if you are doing it yourself and you pay it for yourself, you can claim that money back. Financially it will be better for you. But if you're asking your suppliers to do it, they will pay it and they'll probably charge you that money for that admin and services, and that's not something, that's a lost money, that something you can't get back.
100%. And over here, some I think we've covered, but my company's in Turkey, seller account UK. Where do I pay VAT? You pay VAT in the UK because you're making UK sales for sure.
Yep.
And Astacona, yes, definitely Amazon Pro account. I know Amazon also has, so they have Amazon individual account, Amazon professional account, and then Amazon business account. I don't recommend the business account unless you do something really specific where most of your business is B2B, business to business. I know they promote it very heavily and it looks like it has advantages and sounds official, but a normal Amazon professional seller account is still what I recommend. You can always upgrade and change this later as well. Okay, and Yolanta says, yes, I understand that. But for example, if, oh, sorry, it's just jumping here. If, I'm not sure on this. So Yolanta, I'll have to jump back to your other question. But I understand that. But for example, if QB scanned it wrongly and marked it as a bigger size than it should be, and that's why they raised that price. So Yolanta, I'm just going to have to check your prior comments. Oh, reimbursements. Okay, so you're talking about getting reimbursements from Amazon because they've marked your product as too big. It's not actually that big, and you shouldn't have been charged so much on fees. Still, in these cases, I recommend contacting Amazon, get in touch with seller support, and you're going to have to just stick with that. At a certain point, they are going to offer you remeasurement, and they will remeasure your item and then determine, is it that size, is it not that size, and whether you deserve reimbursement. Something I would say here, and I don't want to dive too much into it in this session, also look at dimensional weight. Your product has one weight, its own, normal weight, but there's also something called dimensional weight. And if you just go to the help section on Amazon, look at that, because that might be impacting this. Particularly larger, lighter weight products are impacted heavily by that. And your fee might be more than you expect, and it might be accurate. Okay, and moving on here. How can I join Osome? We're going to drop links right below this straight afterwards. And you got it. FRF is just thanking us. Very helpful. Thank you. And Hazar doesn't like how I use my hands. I apologize for that, Hazar. And Linda, thank you. FRF says, can I refund my shipment VAT?
If you're a VAT registered business in UK, then anything that you pay on your shipment VAT, which is import VAT, you can get that money back, but only the import VAT, not the customs.
Okay. Linda says, do you recommend for a UK limited company to sell in the EU marketplace after Brexit, or to have a company in the country you want to sell in. So, do I set up a UK limited company and sell into Europe, or do I set up, say I want to sell mainly in Germany, do I set up in Germany? What are your thoughts on that, Tamu?
No, so the best option is to just keep your UK limited company and have that UK market, and then in Germany just register for VAT in Germany through your UK company and start selling your products there. So keep it very simple, straightforward. Don't complicate it. If you have too many companies, there's too much accounting involved in it. There's subsidiary, parent company, and all of that. So just have one company, register them for VAT in different countries, start selling products, and bring the sales back to your UK company.
And similar one, Alex says, I live in India and sell on Amazon US. My company is based on, I think, as a sole proprietorship right now. Where should I create an LLC, in India or the US or both?
An LLC, you can only create it in India. So I live in India, sell on Amazon US, my company is based in, okay. I think you would have to register in a US LLC to keep on trading there and declare your sales there. But I'm not, as I said, I'm not 100% sure in the US side of things, but I believe that's what it would be.
Awesome. And Julissa says, if you had to recommend one product research tool, what would it be? I like so many of them for different reasons, but I'd say if you're going if you want to go for like the lower price area, I would say Jungle Scout's good. If you want to go for a higher price area, I would say Helium 10's good. But I feel like I'm leaving out a lot, but both of those are very strong offers. And thank you, Maria or Gia. Thank you for joining us. Mahmoud asks, I applied for free VAT registration in the UK, on Amazon UK, but didn't have an LLC. I registered as an individual. Can I get an EORI and send it to the forwarder and then get it back? So a little confusing. Tamir, do you understand exactly what he's saying here?
Okay, so when you register for VAT in UK, you can apply for the EORI number on the same time, right? What you're saying here is that you did that through Amazon, but you did not have an LLC. In UK, sorry guys, it's LTD. LLC is only for US. So you did not have an LTD in UK. So you probably did it under a sole trader, which is fine. As a sole trader, you can also get VAT registration and EORI number. Can he get the EORI number and send it to a forwarder? I don't know what a forwarder is, but if you did select an option to register with EORI number on your VAT registration, then you will get the timeline on EORI is from 10 to 15 days. You should have already gotten that on your email. And if not, then please contact Amazon and ask them, and your VAT registration should be simple.
Excellent. And Yolanta also recommends Jungle Scout as well. I'll drop a link for you guys as well. I think we have a discount on that one too, if you want. And Linda says thank you. So Tamir, I think we will close up now. We've gone through everything, super long session, but thank you so much for joining. Any last advice or any words you would give to people on the numbers bookkeeping side, or just in general, any last minute advice you would give, or do you think we covered it all?
I think we have covered majority of the things, and obviously we went through in detail with all the clients, all the questions as well. One thing that I'll simply say to is, do not follow the same stigma that everyone else follows, that go to an accountant at the very last minute. I'm not trying to sell myself, hire an accountant you're comfortable with, but find someone who's a partner and who will work with you and grow with you, rather than just do your books and get the accounting submitted. You need your book to understand your business at any given point in time and make business decisions. E-commerce would probably sound a very simple and straightforward thing. You buy stuff, you sell stuff, but there's a lot of technical, analytical situation going at the background, and you need your books in place to understand all of that. So have that in place, grow your business, have big dreams, and try to find a partner who will work well with you.
Thank you, Timur. And I cannot recommend it enough personally. I've looked at it. I've tried it myself. I've paid big catch-up fees when I've not done the accounting from the beginning. And it's one of, honestly, out of all the services I pay for, it's one of the very, very top that I value, because I don't have to worry. I don't have that stress. I know that it's done properly. It's compliant. It's handled. And accountants usually take a lot of pride in getting this right and making things balance. And, this is what they do. It's going to be very difficult and take a lot of your attention away if you're trying to now learn this and do this while scaling your business, maybe get this wrong, have to redo it. So I can't recommend it enough, particularly for e-commerce, because it's even more complex. But a ton of thank yous in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining. This will be on replay as well. Timur and I will both drop links below for you. But really hope you enjoyed. Timur, thank you again for your time. And hope everyone keeps well. And we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.